While out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should spend our time according to the mansha, according to what is the desire of the Amir. One incident is mentioned in Hayatu Sahaba, that once a woman came to Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and she complained about the husband, and she requested that Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu should instruct her husband to give her talaq. So this husband was sent for, and he came before Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He had a very unkempt appearance. His hair was overlong, not clean, his clothes were dirty, etc. So Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu called his khadim. Didn't say much to him, he just said, take him. But the khadim automatically understood what the mansha of the Amir was. What was the requirement, what did Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu want. So he took this person, had him cleaned up, his hair was put into shape, and his clothes were cleaned, etc. He was given a bath, put on fresh clothes, and then he was brought back. When he was brought back, now he looked much more acceptable, much more handsome. And then Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu sent for the wife of this person. When she came, now she saw her husband, she said, I no longer want talaq. So we find that they understood what was the mansha of the Amir. They say like how a dead corpse hands itself over to the person that is going to make the ghusl. The person making the ghusl, he can turn the head, he can turn the hand, he can turn the feet, whatever, he can do whatever he wants to do, and the corpse will obey. Just like that, we should be when we are out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in regards to our Amir. That at all time we should be carrying out what the mansha and what the requirement of the Amir is. And very important, Hazrat Maulana Ilyas Sahib rahmatullah used to say, when you go out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with our eyes, with our ears, with our mind, with our hands, with our feet, with every part of our body, no act of the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should occur. We are coming out in the path of Allah ta'ala to learn practical deen. And as is mentioned, practice makes perfect. So inshallah, if you will do all the amal correctly while out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then practical deen to come in our life will become a reality. Also, that jamaat which will not do 5 type of gush every day in the path of Allah ta'ala, it will become very difficult for them to take out a naqad jamaat, a cash jamaat out in the path of Allah ta'ala. What we mean by the 5 gush: khususi gush, tashkili gush, ta'limi gush, umumi gush, and wusuli gush. We find that sometimes this gush doesn't take place at night. A very powerful bayan is given, then we make tashkil and we want people to go out in the path of Allah ta'ala. But that is not the time. If the gush didn't take place, then to see results at that time will be impossible. Like this gathering has come to the ijtima, a lot of effort beforehand took place. Then the tashkil is made, then people go out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the effort that took place beforehand. We have to tire ourselves in the day. Our elders say, tire ourselves to such an extent that at night time comes and we put our head on the pillow. It shouldn't be that we wait for the sleep to come, but the sleep should overpower us and we should fall asleep automatically. We should be so tired with the effort that we have made. Khususi gush, the various types of gush, briefly, where sometimes ulama kiram etc. are met. We should go to visit the ulama regarding the ziyarat of the ulama to be an ibadat. We should go to them with the intention of benefit. Tashkil of ulama should not take place. We should request their dua. And if they avail themselves or give us the opportunity or want some karguzari, then we'll present some karguzari to them. But with absolute respect and honor we should go to the ulama. Likewise, the prominent people of the locality, wealthy people, etc., that gush, we should go in such a manner that we do not take effect from their wealth. We should keep in front of us, Allahumma la aisha illa aisha al-akhirah. That Allah, wealth and aish and happiness and comfort and luxury is that of the akhirat. We should go with this, that this person is influential. Inshallah, if he will use his influence correctly, he will be influential in the hereafter also. So we should encourage this person that people in this locality listen to you. So use your influence for deen, and like that we should try and get this person to join us. When you go for khususi gush to old workers, they also we shouldn't make the tashkil. If you make the tashkil, they will not join us. But we should encourage them that through your efforts, so and so join, and so and so join, and so and so join. And inshallah, if you will join us, these people will listen to you and they also will join. So like this, we should try and get the old workers to join us. Ta'limi gush which takes place, that our elders say, what is the object behind ta'limi gush? Is to make our satis into da'is. That by, they will go into the locality Talim is taking place, but the people of the locality don't know the Jamaat is there. When they go into the locality, they will invite towards the greatness of Allah. People will become aware of the existence of the Jamaat. Even the women folk at home, they will have seen the Jamaat in the bazaar. They will tell their husbands when they come in the evening that there is a Jamaat in the masjid. So the existence of the Jamaat, people will come to know when this Talimi Gash will take place. Umumi Gash, before that namaz, if after the namaz bayan is to take place, before that namaz, that Gash that occurs, that is Umumi Gash. Likewise Tashkili Gash, those names that come. And Wusuli Gash, those people that have made intention to go out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the follow-up to take place, for us to encourage them, and for us to bring them with their stuff to the masjid, so that they go out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Very important, my respected brothers, is that all these type of Gash must take place. All the amal must take place, and the Amir should ensure that each Sati does each amal. Not that one person is doing each specific amal, but turn by turn, each Sati should do each amal, so that every Sati when he comes back, he becomes a da'i, and he learns the effort. This is the responsibility of the Amir, to see that the time and the wealth of his Satis is spent correctly while out in the path of Allah Ta'ala. To such an extent, such tarbiyat should be made, that once a person returns, he is able to take his own 3 days Jamaat out in the path of Allah Ta'ala. He can lead the Fard Salah if there is no Imam in the masjid. And he can even lead the Janazah Salah. And if someone's ghusl has to be made, that also he is able to do. That is how the time should be spent. It should not be that one person is doing a specific thing, one person cooking, or one person elan, or one person bayan. But all the amal should take place such a way that each one gets a turn and he is trained and prepared for these amal. And very important is for us to remain within the purview of the 6 points. In this is our protection. Political situation, present circumstances, these things we should not discuss at all. Running down another group or running down another Jamaat, this should not take place. Our talk will remain within the 6 qualities, so that no one will have any objection with us and no one is cut off from us. Because we are there so that everyone can link themselves, everyone can join our effort. And my respected brothers, that we even presenting the way we talk also, it should not come across as if we are in opposition to anybody else. Statements like, this is the only work, and only this work will do, etc. We are not here to make any claims. We should give encouragement, so that it enters the heart of the person that I also have to do this. That should be the manner, and that should be the approach. And very, very important, to have honor for the ulama kiram in our hearts, and to go to them with the intention of learning and ask the masail of deen from them. We don't come out in the path of Allah Ta'ala to start interfering with masail, Hanafi, Shafi, Hanbali, Maliki, arguments, etc. This should not take place. But those pertinent masail which apply or applicable to my daily life, and with the orders of Allah which I have to bring into my life, the alim of our maslak, we will go and ask him, so that our lives can come in conformance with the orders of Allah and the sunnah tariqah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is important, that everything according to sunnah, my dressing, my home, every aspect of my life, I should bring it according to sunnah. Because when we will bring this in our life, then like how when the sun rises, the light spreads. If we will carry these amal of nur with us, the nur will spread by us going out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we should be very cautious all the time. The masjid where we are staying, respect that masjid. Masjid is the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't regard any aspect of the masjid as our own property. We should engage ourselves in the a'mal of the masjid and not unnecessarily utilize the things of the masjid. And very important is the running of the masjid, imamat, azan, etc. To not interfere in that. That is not our work. And this is the place where malaika are there. So we should not cook anything with a bad or strong smell. And we should not keep anything with a strong smell in the masjid. And even our clothing, etc. shouldn't be hung around in the masjid. Our bedding, our personal things should be kept properly in such a way that it is not offensive to others. And with this, our Talim should be within the kitabs of virtue, the lives of Sahaba Kiram, virtue of namaz, virtue of zikr, virtues of tabligh, virtues of tilawat of the Quran, Muslim degeneration and its only remedy. And together with this we have virtues of charity, and according to the season, virtues of Hajj, virtues of Ramadan. Each of these kitab, we should read from each one a little bit. And with this, the halqa of tajweed, there also is not to complete some quota, but if his auzu is not correct, for that to be corrected. In fact, it is compulsory upon every Muslim to learn that much recitation of Quran correctly, by which the farziyat of namaz, tilawat in namaz, is carried out. So this is essential that we learn. And with this, part of our ta'aleem is the muzakara of the 6 points. Each sati should be able to say the 6 point, should listen to the 6 points, should learn the 6 points, so that he can bring the 6 qualities practically in his life. This is the measure where we can see how we are spending our time, how much is the 6 qualities coming in our life. Definitely 6 qualities is not the whole of deen. And we are saying it's not the whole of deen. But inshallah, if we will bring the 6 qualities in our life, it will make the practicing on the rest of deen easy. And in our ibadat, my respected brothers, very important, takbir-e-ula and first saf. When we are free for this, and we are out in ibadah of Allah, we are not going to do this, and how we are going to do this in our localities. That is why if you go for gasht also, come back 10 or 15 minutes earlier, so that we are in the first saf and we perform our namaz with takbir-e-ula. And together with this, my respected brothers, pabandi of our sunnats, pabandi of our nawafil, to be regular with all this, and our tasbihats. If while out in ibadah of Allah Ta'ala we are not going to make our tasbihat regularly, then how is it possible that when we are at home, we are going to make our tasbihat? And our guest says, one important thing is that in the tasbihat, if there is someone who is bad to a sheikh, then that wazifa which his sheikh has shown him, that will take the place of his tasbihat while out in ibadah of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. May Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala give us tawfiq, my respected brothers. Each one that is coming out in ibadah of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala, his wife, his children, the family that he has left behind, that have encouraged him to come out, they have great hopes and aspirations with regards to this person. That he will come back a changed person, he will come back with something, he will come back reformed, he will come back with the deen of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala in his life. And we find that if this person will spend his time correctly, and he gets made while out in the path of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala, then the mere fact that he has changed his life, and the manner that he conducts himself after he has spent time in the path of Allah Ta'ala, that in itself becomes tabligh. His wife will start speaking to others, see how my husband changed. His family members will start speaking to others, and this in itself will become a means of encouraging others to go out in the path of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. We find that these amal are the means by which Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala is going to solve our problems of this world and the hereafter also. So very, very important that we engage, apply ourselves totally in these amal while out in the path of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. And important aspect, much emphasis has been placed on getting up in the dead of the night and asking from Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala that, Ya Allah, it is not my gush, it is not my tilawat, it is not my dhikrullah, it is none of my amal that can do, Ya Allah, you are the only doer. To turn towards Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala and to beseech Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala to accept us and to accept our amal and to make us a means of hidayat, and to ask Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala for forgiveness over our shortcomings. Mistakes are plenty which we are making. We cannot possibly fulfill the rights of this work. So to ask Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala to accept us and to overlook our shortcomings. And my respected brothers, together with this, while out in the path of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala, a person should constantly be taking stock of himself. Today, is there any change from yesterday? Is there any improvement from yesterday? Miyaji Mehrab Sahab, Rahmatullah Ali, used to say that if a person does not keep taking stock of himself, then a point of contentment will be reached. That once a person reaches a point where he is qani' now, where he is content, then such a person's progress will stop. So we have to keep ensuring, when I'm out in the path of Allah, the namaz of today must be better than the namaz of yesterday. The consciousness of Allah of today must be better than the consciousness of Allah of yesterday. And a sign that we are progressing is that we will find that our hearts will now start inclining towards His amal. The heart will incline to stay in the masjid. The heart will incline to stay within the amal of nubuwwat. And if we find that the heart is not inclining, then we should apply ourselves even more and make even more mujahada until we become habitual towards these amal. And the mashwara, how should it be made? Bayan after Zohar, targheeb of gush, how it should be given, etc., how to enter the locality, how to enter the masjid, etc. All this our Amir will show us while we are out in ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One important thing our elders lay emphasis on is the Jamaat that is entering a locality should not enter with the expectation that the people must cook for us, or that they must give us dawat. We should enter with this, that we want to make our own food. They say that Jamaat which cooks his own food, half its work is already done. But with this also we should not go to extremes. Somebody gives us dawat for us to make this condition that till you don't give chilla, or till you don't go out in the path of Allah Ta'ala, I cannot accept your dawat. There is no such usul. When accepting a dawat, we should look at the situation, gauge the situation. Do not offend somebody. The mere fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating a desire in the hearts of the ummah to feed others, that is Allah's favor. And there should be appreciation for that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my respected brothers, that we should be very cautious as to how we accept the dawat. And don't offend the person. Oh, we've got enough, we've got our own money, we can do our own cooking. We don't need you to cook for us. That will create pride in us. And with this, my respected brothers, when we are cooking our food also, don't cook food of such a standard that it becomes difficult for those people of poor background that are with us. Don't make things difficult for our satis. We have come out in the path of Allah Ta'ala to learn simplicity, to bring simplicity, to drop the standard. If you were taking a bath every day at home, now in the path of Allah, take every second day. If you are ironing our clothes daily, then you know it used to be a single crease. Now and then 1 or 2 days you don't iron, or there are a couple of creases on our clothing, no problem. The essence of Islam is simplicity. We come out in the path of Allah Ta'ala to learn simplicity, so that we know now when we go back to our homes and our localities, how to run our homes. Very important, my respected brothers, is that whichever masjid the Jamaat goes to, we should try and make such an effort that we establish the Masjid War Jamaat of that masjid. And establish such a Masjid War Jamaat that is fa'al, that is active. Inshallah, if this is done, then whatever taqazas they are there, that masjid itself thereafter will carry out those taqazas. Our effort should be such an effort that every masjid becomes the example of Masjid al-Nabawi sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Every locality becomes an example of Madinah Munawwara in the time of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Every home becomes the example of the homes of the masjid, become the example of the homes of Madinah Munawwara in the time of Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Establish the 5 amal. All the time we should be talking about the 5 amal, making an effort on the 5 amal, make the masjids alive with the 5 amal, and try and establish the 5 amal in each and every masjid. With this, very, very important, my respected brothers, is ihtimam of dua. We are not saying that tahajjud salah is farz, but it is essential and important and necessary for those who are out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the dead of the night to get up and cry in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make dua for the ummah. Make dua that Allah ta'ala blows the winds of hidayat. Make dua for the solution to the problems facing the ummah. And make dua that every branch of deen, every institution of deen which is serving the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah ta'ala protect it, and Allah ta'ala save it from the evils around it, and Allah ta'ala increase it. We find, my respected brothers, that it is a mafhum of the hadith, that a person out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his du'as are accepted like the anbiya of the Bani Israel. We find that this is a time of amal. Amal are multiplied while out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every subhanallah 700,000 times the reward. Each thing is multiplied many, many times. This opportunity is while we are out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once we return back, then that opportunity is not going to be there. So take maximum advantage of this opportunity while out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Try to spend our time correctly. We find, my respected brothers, that actual thing is that how our amal can get accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is the sign of acceptance? That this person will get the tawfiq to do more amal. In fact, that is what it is said. Ulama say that if you want to see whether an action of ours is accepted, then, or a person's action is accepted, if he gets tawfiq for more amal, it means his previous amal was accepted. And very important, my respected brothers, those who are, for some reason or the other, not going out immediately in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they should have this desire in the heart, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept me also. Look what the Jamaat go out in the path of Allah ta'ala with this in the heart that Allah Ta'ala accept me also to strive in His path. And our Haji Abdul Wahab Sahab, Dawud Barakat, used to say that if this person who is returning back home, he goes with the intention of establishing certain amal, then his returning back home also is out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, those who are going out in the path of Allah ta'ala are going out when what we call jihad asghar, the small jihad. And the big jihad is those who are returning back to their locality with the intention of establishing these amal in our localities. And what is meant by these amal? The 5 amal, my respected brothers. First and foremost is the ta'aleem of the masjid and the ta'aleem at home. Through the ta'aleem of home, the object is how to make the people in our home deendar, how the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can come into our homes, and how our wives can become assistants to us in doing the effort of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how they also can engage themselves in making the tarbiyat of our children according to the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And with this, the 5 amal of the masjid, to take part in the daily mashwara. What is the essence of mashwara? For the conviction to come into the heart that success lies in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And through deen, Allah ta'ala is going to solve all our problems of this world and the hereafter. That is the essence of mashwara. And daily we should take part in mashwara. With this, my respected brothers, for the abadi of the masjid, so that the masjid comes alive, our elders are asking us to give 2.5 hours every day in the masjid. And what is the object behind this? To make such an effort in our locality that every person of iman becomes a person of masjid. When the masjid will come alive with amal, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help will come. And with this is the 2 gush. One is what we call the in-gush, to free the time between 2 namaz and to make gush. This is what we refer to as the in-gush. The Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave very, very big qurbani. They gave great sacrifice. Inshallah, if we will imitate this, give a smaller sacrifice. Example of a smaller sacrifice, on the day of the gush, there should be nothing else. Only the gush should be in front of us. Even other types of gush, tashkili gush, etc. shouldn't take place. The object is not just for the gush to take place, but for me to take part in the gush. This small sacrifice, inshallah, we will give, then Allah Ta'ala will take more work from us, and this will become the platform for bigger sacrifice. From beforehand, we should be making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the success of the gush. Through the in-gush, inshallah, the mahol of our locality will become deendar. The environment of our locality will be made. And through the out-gush, the object is that how the 5 amal can be established in the area of the out-gush. Not just that we go and make gush. For 4 or 5 weeks, such an effort. Take the brothers of that locality out with us in our 3 days. Take them out, and such an effort made on them that they bring the 5 amal alive in that masjid and in that locality. And together with this, my respected brothers, our monthly 3 days. Fix the weekend that we are coming out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we will fix the weekend, and with pabandi, with regularity, regardless of the obstacles, we come out on that weekend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then inshallah our iman will increase. And we should go with the niyat of establishing the 5 amal. This, in fact, my respected brothers, as was mentioned previously, is the jihad akbar. This is the big jihad. And as was mentioned yesterday also, our guest says, importance of us performing our 5 times salah daily with ihtimam, with jamaat. And we should be an assistant with one another. The object behind the 3 days that is given every month, our elders say 2 zimedars, 2 old workers, make such an effort for 27 days of the month that they prepare 10 new people to go with them out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say if you want to learn our work, what is the essence of our work? If you want to learn, then look at the example of a beggar. How a beggar beseeches somebody, and he lowers himself, and he humbles himself. This is how we will learn our work. To go from person to person, and encourage them to go out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And my respected brothers, very, very important is nusrat of the jamaats. He says, unfortunately in our country, what has happened is that we regard Nusrat to be feeding the Jamaats. Nusrat is not feeding the Jamaats. That is ikram, that is akhlaq. Islam teaches us to feed non-Muslims also. Nusrat of the Jamaat is that fikr which the Jamaat has come with, to make that our fikr. And if it is a Jamaat where the brothers are weak, or they don't know the work, to make such an effort on them that they learn tabligh, and they go back to their countries or wherever they came from with this, that we came to South Africa and we learned the work. He says that in England, such an effort was made on us that we learned tabligh, to make the Jamaat so tired, so much nusrat, that to involve them in amal so much that at the time of food they don't think of the food of home, at the time of sleep they don't think of the bedding at home. They are now tired, to make such an effort on them. And my respected brothers, as was mentioned previously, very very important is dua, to beg from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to beseech Allah ta'ala. It is not our efforts, we cannot do. Allah ta'ala is very kareem, Allah is very kind and merciful. This little effort which we are making, Allah ta'ala to accept it, Allah to accept us, Allah ta'ala to accept our families, to bring alive the 5 a'mal in all the various masajid, and to accept us for the work of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And our guest is requesting that we should, up till today, with regards to this work, whatever shortcomings, misunderstandings there were in our lives, we should make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask Allah ta'ala to forgive us. And this is an accepted gathering. Dua will take place. People are going out in the path of Allah ta'ala through that barakat, and through their barakat and through the barakat of the dua. We should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our wealth, accept our lives, and give us the tawfiq to make this work the object of our lives.